If you're a good hacker, you're gonna know that no matter what you do, if somebody is gonna invest enough resources and time into tracking you down, they will. Especially when you're talking about the blockchain and crypto, you will always sleep with one eye open, and if you like to travel, your movement is gonna be very restricted.
Your differentiation is being offensive. So how do you define the offensive, and why offensive become your key unique value proposition?
Offense is often the best defense. Sitting back and waiting for something to happen to react to it often puts you at a disadvantage.
Marwan Hachem didn't come from a traditional cybersecurity path, but he built one of the Middle East's top offensive security firms, FearsOff. Based in Dubai and ranked #1 in the top hackers lists of the world's largest platforms, FearsOff protects exchanges, governments, and AI platforms before the breach. Their clients include HTX, Poloniex, Tron, and M2. FearsOff has become the go-to partner for high-assurance cybersecurity across Web3, AI, and beyond.
As your company is thriving and growing, it's becoming more and more of an attractive target to criminals. So fight fire with fire. That's my advice.
Hello and welcome to Build It Up, where AI meets crypto, technology meets humanity, and East meets West. I'm Bill. Subscribe now and be part of the conversation. My guest this week is Marwan Hachem, co-founder and CEO of FearsOff, a leading offensive cybersecurity firm based in Dubai. He is a renowned ethical hacker working with top crypto exchanges and governments to safeguard billions in digital assets. Marwan, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Bill. My pleasure being here.
Cool. I know you are a very sophisticated cybersecurity entrepreneur, not only in Web3, but also in Web2. Your firm name is FearsOff. How you come up with this name, and what's the history of FearsOff?
A little bit of background. It is a catchy name. My co-founder, Kirill FearsOff, is actually the inspiration for the name. He is among the top ethical hackers in the world, and by far the smartest person I've ever met in my life. And I've had the fortune and privilege to launch our cybersecurity company, which we named FearsOff, playing on words. It's not spelled the same, his last name. It's more on the FearsOff. But the pronunciation FearsOff, we said, you know what, that's a good fit. He is ultimately the brain behind all of our top hackers, and they all look up to him as the guru because he is one of the top ranked hackers in the world. And that's where the inspiration comes from. Ultimately, cybersecurity is about peace of mind and removing fears of our clients. So we thought it's a catchy name. Yeah, let's go with it. And also to honor my co-founder, Kirill, who truly is the engine and the brain behind FearsOff, 100%.
Yeah. You and your co-founder founded this company, and I wonder, how does a hacker's community look like? What kind of hacker will become the unethical hacker? What kind of hacker will become the ethical hacker? And how do you divide those two categories? And do they sort of, sometimes some people pivot from unethical to ethical, or vice versa?
It is a very blurry line, and the industry tends to categorize it as either black hats, which is the criminal ones, white hats, which are the ethical hackers, and what's in between, gray hats, which follow ethical procedures and don't do major crime, but they might do some unethical things in order to further their findings. Or some of them are hacktivists that are doing certain illegal actions more for a cause or a political agenda. And the line is blurred, but the policy at FearsOff is this: there is no gray. There is white and black. And anybody that falls in between is being unethical, and it's not someone we would want on our team. We do vet our testers and our hackers very, very carefully. And every single one of them is vouched for and known in the ethical hacker community. And they have quite a reputation to maintain. So we're very, very careful, and we scale very slowly our team because of this trust issue. And ultimately, there are cases, famous cases as well, where you have black hats that have been caught by law enforcement and eventually started using their expertise to help improve security of governments, of companies as well. And the opposite is true too, because some people start with a good intention in their mind, especially when it comes to crypto projects and testing crypto exchanges. Once a access is achieved, it's not only about exfiltrating data. You're exfiltrating actual money, actual funds, monetary value right away. And sometimes the price could be right for the originally ethical person to say, you know what, greed kicks in and they end up doing the wrong thing. And it happens on both sides.
Yeah.
I hope this dynamic kind of gives you a little idea.
Yeah, because I think in the end, not only everyone will judge or make decision for themselves from ethical, unethical way, but also from opportunity cost way, right? And I guess, that echo to your point, why sometimes the white hat might turn back to the black hat.
True, definitely. Ultimately, it comes down to peace of mind, really. Especially when it comes to, if you're a good hacker, you're going to know that no matter what you do, if somebody is going to invest enough resources and time into tracking you down, they will. So your movement will be...
Regardless how good you are.
Right. They can make it very much harder. But especially when you're talking about the blockchain and crypto, and you will always sleep with one eye open. And if you like to travel, your movement is going to be very restricted because eventually there's going to be an arrest warrant waiting for you, Interpol, FBI, somewhere. And for those people who don't care about traveling, they're good. Like, for instance, I'll give you the example of Russia or North Korea. You see, like...
They don't travel.
They don't travel. I mean... Of course, there is a lot of Russians who travel, but they feel very safe inside Russia that nobody can touch them. They don't have any extradition treaties with other Western countries that, okay, no, we need this guy.
Yes.
There are many countries that offer that. And if the person doesn't like to travel, then they're most likely to say, okay, I'd rather live like a king here without traveling. And many do.
Yeah.
But luckily for the crypto world, all of the FearsOff team is avid travelers. So
yes, yeah, amazing. Yeah, actually, our firm is also your client, right? And when we had the first chance to speak with each other, I found it very catching to find out your differentiation is being offensive. But most of the service provider I used before, they are like audit firm, etc. So how do you define the offensive and why offensive become your key unique value proposition?
From the FearsOff perspective, offense is the best defense. Sitting back and waiting for something to happen to react to it often puts you at a disadvantage. But being proactive and going out there and trying to find, thinking with the same mindset of the attacker, vulnerabilities that could be exploited by your enemies to inflict great harm to your platform or great losses, puts you in a much more secure position. So instead of being a reactive situation, it's more of a proactive, seeking and looking for the weaknesses that can be exploited before they are. And ultimately, it's about how good are you at detecting weaknesses. And this is something very measurable in our line of work. When you're talking about defensive cybersecurity, if no hacks happen or no incidents are recorded, you don't know really if your defensive system or firm or detection and response system that you have is doing its job properly, because somebody might not have tried to hack you yet, and you don't find out until they do. In our case, whenever we're doing an engagement and looking for critical vulnerabilities, we find them and we report them right away, and we show our client how they could have been exploited. Our clients, many times, their security teams lack the creativity and the point of view of the offensive mindset.
So they are not very savvy at offensing. That's why they don't understand, potentially where the risk will come from.
Definitely. I can give you an example. For instance, we've participated in many bug bounty programs for many exchanges.
Crypto exchange.
Correct. And a lot of times we found ourselves arguing for days and days with the security teams of our clients about the impact that a vulnerability has. In their eyes, oh, this is nothing. You cannot do anything with this. But in our eyes, we see the potential damage that this can do. And then we have to work so much harder to educate them about, look, if I take this vulnerability, I can escalate my privileges, I can access this environment, and then chain it to show them the actual impact. And then their jaws will drop and say like, oh my God, how could we have missed that? So this is where the value of bringing in a white hat hacker with a black hat mindset We know how they think. We study every move they do. Security research is actually the name of ethical hacking because you're constantly researching what black hats are doing and trying to beat them to the punchline and find what they're finding, utilizing their techniques without inflicting the damage they inflict, obviously. So this is the unique value proposition, is being able to find critical vulnerabilities before other researchers do or other criminals do. And we've shown the industry over and over again by all of our #1 rankings in the top ethical hacker Hall of Fame and top hackers lists of the top exchanges. We've shown that we're good at finding things that other people miss. So this has been very helpful in our approach to clients such as M2, which is one of our latest clients, which I commend very greatly for the proactive steps they're taking. They have a great team.
Yeah,
definitely.
Appreciate that. And you mentioned, you help a lot of crypto exchange, even, the global top 3, top 5. Could you elaborate a little bit, what kind of a program you are helping them?
We've helped them in 2 ways. Most of them, we have initiated our relationship with them strictly through their bug bounty program, which sometimes is hosted on HackerOne or Bugcrowd or Hackenproof, which is a bug bounty platform for hacking. And we basically give them a proof of value. It's like getting a demonstration of how good we are through vulnerabilities that we are finding, following the guidelines and the policies of the bug bounty program. So think of it as this is meant to crowdsource ethical hackers and security researchers around the world to participate in finding bugs, but they have to follow a certain rules and regulations and policies and be very, very strictly ethical in the way they're reporting things. So initially, we start by reporting bugs through the bug bounty program and give them a proof of value while doing so. And in some cases, making a lot of reward money. And some exchanges have been very generous in the rewards they've given us. And so it's not a total investment of resources because we're actually generating revenue through rewards and providing a proof of value. And many times this initial proof of value has translated into contractual work and partnerships, many of which are made public and some of which are on the hush-hush because some of our clients, they don't want to announce who their security partner is because they view it as another attack vector. Yes. Somebody might try to hack us to get access to their data. But so that's been initially our business model. Since an exchange has a bug bounty program, we don't need their direct permission or a NDA signed in order to start testing them. They actually give carte blanche to everybody to test them, following the regulations. And then in M2 case, for instance, there was no bug bounty program at the time when we started, and we were interested in cooperating and collaborating with them. So we never had the chance to do some proof of value or testing them until recently, where we were able to get the ear of the new management team and that are very much focused and prioritizing security. And we were able to give them a quite convincing proof of value with their permission, of course. That's a different scenario there. But bug bounty program makes it a bit easier. And it is a bit challenging. I understand why some companies would be reluctant.
For what kind of motivation they become reluctant?
Because some companies, they treasure their data and they have this misunderstanding that, I don't want to just invite anybody to test us. What if they gain access to certain critical data, to our client information, PII, or secrets, how responsible these people are. So there is always this big question mark, which is understandable. But on the other hand, they also need to remember that a criminal hacker will never ask for permission or sign an NDA to hack you. They will just do it. So there is a thriving and growing community of ethical hackers and white hat hackers out there that can bring great value individually. And just to remind you also that all of our team are bug bounty hunters. And we've selected some of the top people out there. And we do this as a unit effort instead of being an individual researcher. So we've kind of cut it down to a science pretty much. And every single engagement that we initiate, teach us lessons that we leverage in the next and in the next and in the next. It's a constant learning process. So it's a challenge still to have everybody be comfortable with having or giving everybody permission to test them. But it's a pros and cons of the bug bounty. It's always that question mark of, okay, what if they do gain access to something critical and then they change their mind, and instead of sharing it, they want to blackmail us or they want to exploit it in an abusive way. And it's always a possibility. But the greater possibility is understanding that as your company is thriving and growing, it's becoming more and more of an attractive target to criminals. So fight fire with fire. That's my advice, is on one hand, crowdsource the community at large, and on the other, bring in teams with proven track records and constantly topping the charts in their offensive research to stress test periodically. So pen tests and red team engagements used to be kind of taking an X-ray at a moment in time, or a blood test at a moment in time. It shows you at that moment in time how your health is. But that used to be the old school kind of look at how pen testing and cybersecurity should be. Nowadays, especially in crypto and Web3 space, continuous testing is required. To give you an idea, most of our engagements are quarterly engagements. So basically, when you have pen tests that can last for a week or 2 weeks, or a month if it's a comprehensive pen test, the way we design our engagements are 3 months and 6 months or even a year. But it's not basically a repetitive action that's doing the same thing and doesn't have value, because you design your security architecture by identifying the gaps that the offensive testing is uncovering constantly. And we have slowly evolved from being a purely offensive security company into providing what's called also blue teaming. So you have the red team, the offensive side, and the blue team, the defensive side, which becomes an extension of the security team of the platforms we're dealing with. And they are the ones that can give a more in-depth and, from a security architecture point of view, the best way to remediate the gaps that we are finding. So essentially, we become an extension of the IT and the security team of our clients. And that can vary from, monthly to quarterly to even longer engagements than that.
When you provide those red team and blue team, comprehensive solution to the clients, I know you deal with Web 2 and Web 3 simultaneously. How do you find the client's appetite difference? I mean, from the budget, mindset, tech, sophistication perspective, how do you see those different clients differentiate with each other, Web 2 and Web 3?
Well, we do like Web 3 clients, crypto clients, because they tend to value a bit more our engagements and the findings that we are making.
Why is that? Is it because the law enforcement and tracking in the Web 2 are so advanced that the hacking is not popular anymore?
No, not really. The main differentiator here is that one thing is to be able to hack a company to just exfiltrate data and then sell it on the dark web, or launch a ransomware attack and try to extort the company for money in order to be granted back access to their databases and
But
systems.
can they hack the money from a Web 2 player like PayPal, etc.?
But that's the thing. In Web 3, they can. In Web 2, it's mostly about monetizing data.
Oh,
You
because
understand?
moving money is a fiat, and
Right.
fiat is like under the monitoring
Right.
everywhere.
Exactly.
Okay.
But when you're talking about crypto and the blockchain and the immutability of it, once a transaction is done, you can't go back.
Yeah.
When you're talking about Web 2, it's a whole different story. So we have some pretty good Web 2 clients, fintech companies that value ultimately client information and personal information of clients and source code and proprietary information of the company. If leaked, they can put a business out of business. So they greatly value that as well. But the issue is that there are a lot of cybersecurity providers out there and people that provide services or claim to provide services that we do. Ultimately, there are different ranges of quality of what you're delivering. Most companies nowadays, I feel, in the Web 2, even in the Web 3 space, they look at cybersecurity more as a compliance issue because they want to make the regulators happy. They are required, depending on the industry they work in, to do either yearly or twice a year or quarterly pen tests. And they care more about the clean bill of health. And look, we did a pen test and we passed it. They found nothing, very low things, and they've been fixed. And you will see a lot of these audit reports being made public to show the investors and to show the regulators that we're good. So far, we have never had one of our reports made public because it would scare away investors and it would make regulators scratch their head like, what's going on? And I mean, smart contract audits is a different thing, obviously. But when you're talking about vulnerability reporting audits of the end of the engagement and seeing how many critical findings we found, that each one of them could cost the company tens or hundreds of millions of dollars if exploited, that is something that is not really made public. So compliance doesn't translate well to security because you can abide by all the regulators' conditions, and your IT and your pen testing requirements might look okay. But ultimately, who's doing the pen testing? Is like you going to a doctor and you're having a certain certain problem, and you get diagnosed, and the doctor will check you out, do the tests, and tell you, Bill, you're okay. There is nothing wrong. Just take this. Might be an allergic reaction to something. All right. Now, what if that doctor missed a tumor or missed a major issue that can cost you your life or greatly affect your quality of life? So just going to a doctor because he's a licensed doctor and getting a clean bill of health does not translate to health, does not translate into security when it comes to the security part. And this is the message we're trying to put out there. We have audited many companies who had been freshly audited by some of our competitors and found gaps that we could not, and neither our clients could believe that, oh my God, how did they miss this? So that's one of the challenges that we face, is that we are not trying to compete with other cybersecurity companies in price, and many companies are very cost minded and oriented. They want to do things as per industry, and it varies greatly. And I can tell you, Bill, we're definitely not the most economic in the market. We're actually on the top price bracket, but there is a reason for that. And it's still pennies on the dollars in terms of return on investment if what we find were to be exploited by another black hat that could have found it and tried to monetize it. So that's been a little bit of the challenge in the Web 2, because it's not as fast to monetize what the hacker can exfiltrate versus crypto.
I want to dive deeper into the Web3 clients. I guess, you deal with clients from centralized off-chain exchange, but also the on-chain protocol simultaneously. How do you find the difference? And do you think in general, running a on-chain protocol is more vulnerable?
Well, it's different types of vulnerabilities that we're talking about. The most common vulnerabilities whenever we're talking about Web3 space and on-chain protocols are always related to logic flows, smart contract vulnerabilities. Reentrancy is a great example of it, which tricks a smart contract into executing many transactions simultaneously before it realizes it's doing something wrong, and which results in tens or hundreds of millions of funds being exfiltrated. It does require a different skill set whenever you're talking about Web 2 and Web 3 security. And here we're talking about Web 3 per se, because when you're thinking centralized exchanges, you're thinking also, Web 3 security. But that Web 3 security really relates to if they have a token and they want to get it audited, or the integration, or what I would call the Web 2.5 security. Because you have a little bridge in between.
For the centralized exchange, you think it's a hybrid security?
Right. And one thing that, to be fully transparent with you, we do not advertise ourselves as a Web3 security company. It is a vertical that we offer and audits we do. But most of our Web3 clients and 90% of our engagements are usually related to legacy cybersecurity issues.
Which is the Web 2.
Correct. The industry forgets that Web 3 is built upon Web 2. It's the foundation. And if you have a weak foundation, everything on top crumbles. Blockchain per se is super secure. It is extremely hard to hack, and to pull off 51% attacks requires astronomical numbers that make it super secure for now, until quantum computing tells us something different in a decade or so. But really, the applications and the touch points between the blockchain and the user is where the potential risk is occurring. And those, in most cases, relate to Web 2 issues. I'm talking about weak APIs, gaps in the infrastructure, network issues, and then basically having somebody who understands both concepts of the Web 2 legacy security and the Web 3 part is something that is quite rare in the industry. Today, you have a lot of people that learn Solidity, Rust, and other languages to be able to audit code and smart contracts. And they're capable of uncovering bugs if there exist. And you have, on the other hand, the legacy security researchers who are more focused on the Web 2 components of it. It's quite rare to find a group or a team that has both and is actually able to test and look at both with the combined knowledge, combined expertise. And that's one thing and one plus that we have that many other auditors that focus strictly on smart contract and on-chain related security issues don't. But we're seeing this becoming more and more of a adopted mindset. We have started an initiative with FearsOff called the FearsOff Alliance, because ultimately it's very hard to scale our teams and be able to undertake a lot more engagement demand that we're having. But we are actually teaming up with other very reputable smaller teams that are marrying both mentality of the Web 2 and the Web 3 security and are capable in doing that. It's still a baby and in the works, but under the FearsOff Alliance, and it wouldn't be definitely not strictly Web 3 and smart contract related, but the more complete and holistic view of security.
You mentioned that basically every good security provider have to be a master of mixed martial art. You have to understand Web 2 and Web 3 very well as a hybrid model. On top of that, I want to talk about AI. Do you think AI is transforming the capability of the defender or the offender or simultaneously? Like, how do you see the AI impacting to the cybersecurity industry?
Greatly. AI is definitely amplifying the capabilities, either for good or for evil. We always see the evil part and the attacker part being the one that takes the most advantage of it at the very beginning in every innovation.
Why is that? Why always the evil part takes advantage at the very beginning?
Because they do not worry about permissions, they do not worry about bureaucracy, they do not worry about, let's do this right. They just do it because they don't care. And that's where, the criminal factor goes in, which is an advantage when it's about innovation, because you don't care about any ethical or legal consequences whenever you are tinkering with something new. But it's greatly amplifying the attacker's capabilities, especially in the deep fakes and being able to trick people in very sophisticated phishing attacks. Not only that, because a lot of antiviruses are trained to detect certain deep fakes or AI malware that is self-regulating and adjusting in mid-attack to actually be able to avoid being detected, which is very scary proposition there because it's making a lot of the traditional firewall antivirus obsolete. So we need to adapt defensively to that as well. And we are actually doing that. From a defensive point of view, you can automate, you have AI bots that can detect unusual activity or access attempts by some of the team members a lot faster and be able to process huge amounts of data that would require an actual manual team to actually spend days and weeks on it. So the incident response and recovery, the AI is bringing great value to that and in blocking any suspicious activity before it can reach deeper and deeper and cause greater problem. From our own experience with AI, I mentioned a lot about our achievements with bug bounties and whatnot. Honestly, a hacker, ethical or not, we are hard workers, but we like to go after the easy targets, first of all, low-hanging fruit.
That's
right?
Human nature.
Human nature, right? Why work hard for something that you can achieve a lot faster? So the team is made out of some really world-class programmers and developers. Kirill, my co-founder, being the top one. And thanks to his tinkering and software development skills, we started creating tools that most security researchers rely on open source tools that are available to the public. But we see a lot of gaps in them. And a lot of them claim to be AI powered or whatnot, just it's becoming a catchphrase. So he was able to design and develop some tools that we are using internally right now. They're not available for the public yet. One of them is a vulnerability scanner. Think of it as a Google for cybersecurity, checking in real time all of the internet 24/7 for any open ports, any potential vulnerable areas, classifying what is the most likely and the most valuable potential vulnerability that there is. This cuts down the research time greatly. And another tool that is AI powered as well, and this is actually, it requires quite a bit of technical expertise to be able to use these open source tools that security researchers use. This one is actually a lot easier to use. You don't need to have too much of coding experience or understanding it. You can just prompt the tool and it will be able to give you great value and access to information that would require you days and weeks to be able to gather manually. So this is an example of an AI that's can be used offensively because we're using it when we are doing red teaming and penetration testing, but can also be used by the platforms or our clients internally to constantly monitor their attack surface and be able to detect things in real time. Because usually when you're testing, you're doing a several week engagement, and at the very end, you get a report here. So from our own experience, we're seeing it available in tools that can be used both offensively and defensively. And the greatest threat right now is how easy it is to create this malware. And using AI, you don't need to be a coder anymore or very technically savvy. And even if you don't want to do it, you have a lot of people that are selling malware as a service. I'll give you an example. This is something that we actually intervened in a couple of occasions where some big Web3 companies have been targeted through AI-created malware that trick them into downloading the wrong video conferencing app.
Yeah, that's very popular.
We started looking into that last year, summer of last year. And we were actually able to take down a whole network of Russian hackers that were pumping out malware right and left. Yeah, most of them have been arrested, by the way. But yeah, we did a little piece on Cointelegraph talking about that, but we couldn't tell them who the client was. But they fell victim to somebody impersonating OKX venture investors. We want to invest in your project, but the investor is in China. He cannot use Google Meet or Zoom.
Okay.
Please download this. This is a small example. Or recruitment scams as well. People are using LinkedIn to target people working already in big Web3 companies or lure them with great offers to go work somewhere else. And once they infect their workstation or and they have certain access to that company, i.e. the Bybit hack, what happened? It was done through that way. One of their developers fell for it, and look at the aftermath, what this has caused. But I mean, it happens daily on much smaller transactions, but not all of them make the spotlight and are reported.
I have last two questions just for the normal audience. The first one is about, the individual cybersecurity. For the crypto holder, cold wallet, hot wallet, and the exchange wallet, which one you recommend to a very normal, let's say, Bitcoin or Ethereum holder?
All right. Are you asking about on each one, which one I would recommend, or?
Yes, I mean, like, if you put, like, which one it will be the top one preference, you will recommend to a normal non-tech Bitcoin holder?
Okay. Well, obviously, whatever considerable amounts that a holder has must be kept on cold storage, hardware wallets, obviously. Not to endorse anyone in particular, honestly, because ultimately it's about my two top choices would be like what we use mostly are Ledger and Trezor, which is not because we suspect the other ones are not as secure. It's just about, okay, they do the job.
Okay.
And the one thing that I personally am against is when some of these hardware wallet providers start giving some kind of recovery options, because that opens the door for hackers to do what they couldn't do before.
Yes.
Keep it simple. It is a high-risk thing to self-custody. It is definitely a high-risk thing. And a lot of people don't have the appetite or they're clumsy. So I wouldn't recommend them to do it. Entrust it to a company. There are many different custody solutions out there. if you don't want to hold your own. But if you're going to go with a cold wallet, make sure it's as simple and bare bones as there could be. You know, don't increase the attack surface for hackers, because that's what they love the most. The second you start adding features or anything that can help you recover something you forgot, then you're opening the door for attackers to do the same. 100%. Yeah. In terms of a hot wallet or crypto platforms, I mean, a lot of them are our clients and some of them compete. I'm not going to tell you I'm making a recommendation on either one because I don't want anybody to be sad. Honestly.
But I mean, basically for those options, you know, hot wallet, cold wallet, and hot wallet and the exchange, you still prefer recommend cold wallet. Because, you know, the thing that I heard some argument is most of the normal people, when they really do the self-custody, they might lose their seed phrase or they might get hacked by social engineering, etc. And given that, you know, the centralized exchange are so mature at this stage, why don't you just stake most of your crypto into the centralized exchange? Actually, you know, there are some kind of argument, even from CZ. So what is your view on that? I mean, like compare the three different options.
It is appealing what you're mentioning, that exchanges are becoming more and more responsible and capable of taking bigger and bigger hits, just like Bybit survived $1.5 billion hit, and many others do. And a lot of exchanges like Binance, they have big insurance policies as well, and reserves over, I don't know how many billions, over 2 for sure, to be able to repay the users in case of hacks and whatnot. It is convenient, and I'm going to admit, I also keep quite a bit of my holdings on different exchanges, not big chunks in one. I spread them out because I also trade, and it's inconvenient every time you want to trade to use your cold storage wallet. That's for store and forget. One con, I would say, to the exchange holding your crypto, ultimately the saying is not your keys, not your crypto. Okay, and this goes back to the very, very origin of Bitcoin, of decentralization, of freedom, of ownership. Because ultimately, I believe Web3 is about ownership, okay? And if you don't have your own keys, you don't ultimately own that. And true, you are always in danger of being hacked and social engineered and whatnot. That's why it is not for the faint of heart, self-custody and whatnot. It is a compromise that must be done to be realistic between ownership and peace of mind. You know that if the exchange is reputable and is very strong and has survived and learned lessons from previous hacks and how they have behaved with their users, gives peace of mind and ultimately would be a better solution. I would definitely recommend using an exchange versus self-custody to people who have a low risk tolerance or who are naturally clumsy. Some people are clumsier than others. They, as you said, they lose their seed phrase or they
Not very organized.
Or they get easily tricked by scammers into downloading a crypto drainer or giving up their seed phrases by mistake. So there is a case for both. And ultimately, there is a taste for everyone. And that taste comes to risk appetite at the end of the day.
Sounds like it depends on each individual. You have to understand your personality, right?
Right.
And then there are multiple answers for multiple different kind of individuals, I guess.
I'm sure 10 years down the road, when we look back at when Bitcoin was only 120,000, and 10 years down the road when it's going to be in the millions, I'm hoping, because I'm pretty sure it will be. We're going to look back and think, how crazy were we walking down the street with those little USBs in our pockets, and oh my God. So I'm pretty sure custody and custody solutions will continue to evolve to accommodate more and more of really what's at stake. Because I'm sure we're going to look back and laugh on how lucky we were that we actually made it through those Wild West days of crypto. Walking around with so much on these little USBs and like it's nothing.
Definitely. Yeah. Cool. My last question would be, for the young generation who want to get into the tech industry, regardless of AI or crypto, etc., what would be your advice to them?
Well, I've always advocated and tried to guide as much as I can, especially in the cybersecurity sector. I get contacted a lot by young graduates and young researchers trying to become more and more proficient in cybersecurity. I've noticed that we used to, in the past, give so much value to certifications and diplomas, which definitely still hold value, 100%. But when it comes to what we do specifically and what I've been advocating for is you have to roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty, meaning learn by doing, because certifications can only take you so much. And I'll give you a small example. Whenever we are screening and taking applications in, we used to, first of all, follow the same procedure that everybody follows. Okay, submit your CV, your certifications, your diplomas. And then when we try to do a little bit of collaboration, we see there is big gaps between what shows on the paper and the actual capability of the person. So we have advocated and invite people to actually practice, join, capture the flag tournaments, participate in bug bounties, improve their skills by doing. And we actually started creating our own challenge to the people that want to apply to work with us. They have to pass like a baptism of fire, we call it. It's a CTF that my co-founder created that is super, super hard. But it can give us a clear idea on the capability of the researcher. And that's before even checking out their CV or having an interview. Okay, here's the challenge. You have 24 hours. And then that's how we've been screening most of the people applying to for us. In terms of crypto and people, newcomers, I recognize that security and hearing about incidents and hacks all the time, it's slowing down adoption. And it's making the people that are sitting on the fences delay jumping in with both feet. I'm a big believer that improving the security is not only a responsibility on the platform owners or the exchange owners or the project owners, it's a shared responsibility among the whole community. Education is key and has to be done on a daily basis. We're talking about something that's evolving daily and threats that are evolving daily. We all need to become researchers, and unfortunately, I must say this, we need to actually be a bit more paranoid than what we are. I understand it's a negative word, but a little bit of paranoia is healthy. Be suspicious. It's hard to enforce zero trust in companies. I imagine it on an individual level. Whenever we are faced with so much ease and accessibility, I've advocated for instance, segregating devices. Like, okay, you want to have hot wallets, you want to have crypto exchanges accounts, and you want to trade, try to segregate your devices. Have one dedicated for that, where you are not interacting with any other applications, or that where you are not going to download an app or click a link that has hidden malware in it that's going to drain your funds. It's a lot of people have 2-3 devices, if you notice, but nobody segregates, or very few people segregate. Segregation is one of the, I would say, easiest and lower hanging fruit in achieving so much more insulation from being falling victim to a social engineering attack. So segregation is one, and continuous education. Like, there are so many threats luring out there. All it takes is just approaching every interactions that you're doing, especially on social media, on platforms like X, LinkedIn, and so many opportunities are flooding, especially in Web3. There are so many opportunities and exciting things happening all the time. Always take a step back, take a deep breath. Do not rush into anything. If it sounds too good to be true, it is definitely too good to be true. Learn. Like, it's a shared responsibility for all users as well. Educate yourself and learn how to spot dangerous situations and interactions.
Thank you. Well, that's very well said. Sounds like, in every certain industry, in such a dynamic world, being a lifetime learner would be the top one essential thing.
It's a must, definitely. Can never let the guard down.
Yes. Okay, cool. Thank you, Marwan, for the inspiring sharing, and I really appreciate.
Thank you so much. A pleasure sharing with you, and a pleasure meeting you finally.
Well, that's all for today on Build It Up. We will be back soon with another guest. If you like this episode, leave a comment and let me know what you think. Until next time, this is Bill. Goodbye and take care.